You've probably heard the saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. But what if I told you there are 8 specific items you literally cannot have too many of when disaster strikes? In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to reveal the exact items that separates prepared families from those caught off guard, including the one item that's more valuable than all your supplies combined. These aren't expensive gear or fancy gadgets. They're affordable essentials you can build up over time, and some might even surprise you. Welcome to Food Fixer, where we turn everyday people into prepared survivors. If you're ready to take your preparedness to the next level, hit that like button and subscribe for more life-saving content. Now, let's dive into these game-changing items that you need to start stockpiling today. The first category might seem obvious, but most people drastically underestimate how much they'll actually need. I'm talking about stored energy. And this goes way beyond just throwing a few batteries in a drawer. When it comes to batteries, you need to think about every single device in your home that requires them. Your flashlights, radios, weather alerts, kids' toys that keep them calm during stressful times. The list goes on. But here's what most people don't realize. In a grid-down situation, you're going to burn through batteries at an alarming rate because you'll be using these devices constantly, not just occasionally. Then you've got your power stations, those portable units that can charge your larger appliances and electronics. I'm not talking about just having one backup. You want multiple units because when one dies, you need time to recharge it while another one takes over. The same goes for those smaller USB battery packs that charge your phones and tablets. In an emergency, communication could literally save your life, so your devices need to stay powered. And if you're thinking about solar options, this is where you can really build something substantial over time. Start with a basic DIY setup and expand it piece by piece. Solar panels, charge controllers, batteries, you can add to this system gradually without breaking the bank. But stored energy isn't just about electricity. We're also talking about fuel storage, and this is where things get really interesting. Gasoline is the obvious one. With proper fuel stabilizer, you can easily store 25 to 30 gallons, rotating through them so they don't go bad. But here's the key. You're not just storing fuel for your vehicle. Think about generators, chainsaws, any gas-powered equipment that might become essential. Propane is another game changer because it comes in so many different sizes. You've got the big tanks for outdoor grills, the smaller Coleman-style canisters, and those tiny ones that screw onto hiking stoves. Each size serves different purposes, and propane has an incredibly long shelf life. Now here's something that might surprise you. Wood storage. Even if you don't have a fireplace, you should probably have at least half a cord stored somewhere. You can buy an outdoor fire pit relatively cheaply, or even just dig a hole in your backyard. Wood gives you the ability to cook and provide warmth without depending on any other fuel source. And if you do have a fireplace, store as much wood as you possibly can because it's one of those resources you could potentially find around your neighborhood if you had to. Don't forget about alternative fuels either. If you have an alcohol stove, you're talking about denatured alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and even high-proof drinking alcohol like Everclear. Then you've got sterno and butane canisters for those convenient indoor cooking stoves that make meal preparation so much easier when the power's out. Here's the reality check. You're going to use way more energy than you think you will, and you really don't know how long a disaster might last. Having multiple backup systems isn't paranoia. It's smart planning. The second category I call the binding items, and these are the unsung heroes of disaster preparedness. We're talking about cordage. And not just the popular 550 paracord that every prepper loves. You want baling wire, regular metal wire, different thicknesses for different jobs. These take up virtually no space and weigh almost nothing, but they can solve countless problems. Tape is another one where quantity really matters. Duct tape gets all the attention, but you want different types for different situations. Electrical tape, medical tape, packing tape. Each one has specific uses that the others can't handle as well. Don't overlook glues and zip ties either. These supplies might seem basic, but imagine you need to seal up windows, patch holes in your house, or build something when you don't have access to proper tools. Having a lot of these binding materials could be the difference between a quick fix and a major problem. The great thing about all these items is they're incredibly inexpensive and something you can build up over time. You're not looking at one big purchase. Just grab a few extra rolls of tape or some zip ties every time you're at the store. Fire starting supplies are next, and yes, you could go overboard here, But there's also a strategic element most people miss. You don't need 500 ferro rods, but you do need more lighters and matches than you think. Here's why. These items are going to be incredibly valuable for bartering if that situation arises. People will desperately need fire-starting supplies, and they don't take up much storage space. Lighters are perfect for this because you can grab a few here and a few there, and pretty soon you'll have a solid stockpile. You're never going to look at a collection of lighters and think, wow, I've got too many of these. Fire is fundamental to survival. Cooking, warmth, light, signaling for help. So having reliable ways to start fire is non-negotiable. Light sources are similar to your power needs. You just can't have enough of them. I probably have at least 100 flashlights stored in different boxes, in different places around the house, in vehicles, in the garage. This might sound excessive, but here's the thing. Once the sun goes down, it's game over unless you have a reliable light source. Headlamps deserve special mention because they're hands-free. Whether you're working on a vehicle, scouting an area, or doing any task that requires both hands, headlamps are incredibly convenient. You can get decent ones pretty cheaply, so having both really nice ones and a bunch of basic backup units makes sense. Don't forget about oil lamps and candles either. These are your last resort options, but candles last forever when stored properly, and lamp oil basically lasts forever too. If you have room to put together a box of different flashlights and headlamps, and another box with various types of candles, you'll be glad you did when you need them. First aid supplies are where most people think too small. I'm not talking about having hundreds of Band-Aids, but there are some first aid supplies that last a really long time, and you'll use more than you expect. Here's a perfect example. My wife has horses, and one of them cut their leg pretty badly. She had a big horse first aid kit, but went through all the gauze she had and needed more. Gauze, medical dressings, medical tape. As long as they're stored properly, these will last years. Even if some items go past their expiration dates, you can use those for training and practice. You're not going to waste this stuff because when you have injuries that are more serious than a paper cut, you're going to be incredibly grateful you have more supplies than you thought you needed. Manual tools and hardware represent a huge category that can really pay off. We're talking about hammers, saws, drill bits, socket sets, ratchets, all the basic tools you need to fix and build things. If you don't have power or can't recharge your cordless tools, these manual tools become absolutely essential. Can't use your electric saw? You're going to need that handsaw to cut wood for boarding up windows or whatever task needs to be done. Hardware is equally important. Hinges, nails, screws, bolts. You never know what's going to come in handy in any particular situation. Even during normal times, it's incredibly convenient to have these supplies available at home instead of having to run to the hardware store for every little project. Now let's talk about something that might make some people uncomfortable, but it's absolutely critical. Money in different forms. I'm not talking about having $1 million in your bank account. I'm talking about having cash on hand and maybe investing a little in precious metals if you can swing it. There's a difference between these approaches. Gold and silver are mainly for economic collapse or hyperinflation situations. They're a hedge against the dollar losing its value completely. But in most disaster scenarios we're likely to face, having cash on hand is going to be really important. Think about it. If it's a grid-down situation where you can't access ATMs or use credit cards, cash becomes king. This applies to everything free. I'm having a few bucks in your wallet to storing as much cash as you reasonably can and you're safe at home. With precious metals, silver is more cost-friendly than gold and probably more accepted for smaller transactions. But the key is understanding when to use each type of currency based on the scenario you're facing. Hygiene supplies represent another category where quantity really matters, but you need to be smart about it. Toilet paper is the obvious one. The only limitation is where you're going to store it all. Toilet paper lasts forever, and you're definitely going to use it. Feminine hygiene products are similar. Depending on your family situation, you really can't have too many of these. Bar soap is interesting because it lasts much longer than liquid soaps. Most of us use body washes and liquid soaps these days, but if you incorporate bar soap into your daily routine, you'll go through your stockpile naturally while building up supplies. Plus, Soap could be valuable for bartering. Vinegar deserves special mention because it has multiple uses beyond cleaning. Same with cleaning products like bleach, though I wouldn't store too much bleach because of its shorter shelf life. Pool shock is a better long-term option for water treatment. Trash bags are incredibly versatile. They have multiple uses, and in a situation where you want to maintain hygiene and prevent people from getting sick, being able to remove trash and waste properly becomes really important. 5-gallon buckets are one of those items where once you start collecting them, you realize how useful they are. You can make emergency toilets, store food, use them for countless other purposes. When I get a 5-gallon bucket, I never throw it away. But here's the thing I save for last, and it's the most important item on this entire list. This one will get you out of most situations and help you through disasters better than having any of these supplies. I'm talking about education and training. You can have all the first aid supplies in the world, but without the education and training to use them properly, they're just expensive decorations. You can have firearms, but without proper training, they might be more dangerous to you than helpful. Education and training are force multipliers. They take all these other supplies and make them exponentially more useful. Learning about different disaster scenarios and understanding how situations might unfold gives you a better frame. You work for making decisions under pressure. This isn't just about technical skills either. Staying informed about current events, not necessarily watching the news, because that can be hit or miss for factual information, but understanding what the possible threats are in your area and whether they're escalating or decreasing. Learning about your local area and your personal situation helps you allocate resources where they need to be allocated. You prepare for scenarios based on your actual needs, not just what everyone else is doing on the internet. The beautiful thing about most items on this list is that they don't require a major investment and can be bought over time. Unless you're talking about the more expensive power stations, most of these supplies can be accumulated gradually. Many of these items can be used for bartering if that economy develops, and almost all of them have multiple uses in your preparedness plans beyond their obvious primary function. Remember, the goal isn't to become a hoarder. It's to build redundancy into your preparations. When disaster strikes, you want to have backup plans for your backup plans, and these 8 categories of supplies will help you do exactly that. The knowledge and training piece cannot be overstated. It's the difference between having a bunch of stuff and actually being prepared to handle whatever comes your way. If this video helped you think differently about your preparedness strategy, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Food Fixer for more content that could literally save your life. What item from this list are you going to focus on building up first? Let me know in the comments below. Stay prepared, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.